Hello again, friends. So last lesson we talked to you about position properties for CSS. So that means that in this lesson, we're going to talk about float properties. And then after that, we'll talk about a few more features. So for right now, we'll start creating two new files named float.html and float.css, just as we always do when we start with Atom. So what I'll do is type HTML and press the tab key. And I'm just typing float as a title. And we'll define the name of our CSS file with the link tag. Now, first off, I want to create two divs in our HTML file. So now I'm preparing two divs for two boxes, and I will write blue and yellow sequentially in the class sections. I'll save the changes and go to the CSS file and start typing the properties of our boxes by calling them blue and yellow. Then I give the width, the height, and the background color for our first box. Likewise, we'll give these features to our second box. And then when we save it and look at the changes, we can see that we have two boxes. So now we're going to want to bring these boxes side by side. So that's where the float feature comes in handy. So we want to bring our yellow box next to our blue box. So to do this in the yellow box, we just give the feature float left. Now, no changes appear when we save and look for them because I should tell you that float left are the two boxes that we want to bring together. So as we saw when we gave this feature to the first box, the boxes come side by side. Now let's see what happens if we just say float right for our yellow box. And as we can see there, only our yellow box is shifted to the right from its first position. So by giving this feature to our blue box, we can bring it side by side again. And this time, the different part came side by side on the right. You see that? So now let's put these two boxes side by side on the left again. And this brings up another feature that I want to tell you about. So in this, I just want to add another div whose class name is green by going to our HTML file. And let's give the features of our third box in our CSS file. So I'll give the width and the height of this box to be 200 so that we can see the difference. And when we save it and look for the changes, as we can see, our green box does not start just below the boxes like we anticipate because the float feature affects this box, right? Because it came after it. So if we give our third box the clear feature and then say we are affected by both sides, let's see what happens. All right, so first, our green box moves into position just like we expected. Now, if we do not want the elements to have the float feature to be affected like before, we can use the clear feature. That way, if you want to, we can also say that we are not affected by the left or the right side. So I think that's enough talk about it. Play around with it. It's a great way to move your boxes around. Now, before I finish this lesson, I do want to tell you about the box shadow, the border radius, and the transform features. So for this, I'll want to put our green box somewhat more centrally located because we're going to make changes through this box. Okay, so now I want to shade our green box. So we'll use the box shadow feature for this. And we put the value to 4 when we're using this feature. And then the first of these is the right side length of the lake. The second is the bottom side shadow length. And the third one is the shadow intensity. Then finally, the color of the shadow. All right, so let's have a look at what we've done. As we can see, there was shading in black from the bottom and the right side. So what do you say? Can we just shade from the right and the bottom? Ah, not so much, right? We can change the direction just by placing a minus sign in front of the values, and that affects the drop shadow length and direction. So just consider the minus sign as the opposite direction, not negative. All right, so that's the shading feature. Now, how can we make the corners here? They're very sharp. How do we round them out? For this, we can use the border radius feature. The first of 4 values we'll just give here is for the upper left corner. Second is for the upper right corner. Third, for the lower right corner. And the last one for the lower left corner. Now, if we want to make the same rounding ratio in each corner, we can make it one value. And here we can see each corner is rounded in the same ratio. So now let's talk about the transform property. So it's transform rotate property, and it's used to rotate objects. This way we can give our box the rate of transform rotate, and we can tell it how many degrees we want it to rotate. And what do you think about that? As we can see, our box is turned 60 degrees clockwise. So I think that's enough for today, don't you? We talked about several features about the box model, and I want to prepare a kind of a fun example about all of these features in use that we've learned in the lesson. So I'll go and prepare that, and goodbye for now, and I'll see you in the next lesson. We'll have some fun.